Brazilian citizenship is one of the most sought-after statuses in Latin America, and for good reason. Holding a Brazilian passport opens doors to visa-free or visa-on-arrival access to dozens of countries, grants full rights within one of the largest economies in the world, and connects you to a rich, vibrant culture that spans a continent. But before diving into how to obtain it, it is essential to understand that Brazilian law recognizes two fundamental categories of citizenship: Originary citizenship and Derived citizenship. Each follows its own set of rules, conditions, and timelines, and knowing the difference between them is the first step toward understanding which path applies to your specific situation. Originary citizenship, known in Portuguese as Cidadania Originária, refers to citizenship acquired at birth. This is not something a person applies for in the traditional sense. It is a status that arises automatically based on the circumstances of one's birth. Under Brazilian law, a person is considered a Brazilian citizen from birth if they were born on Brazilian soil, regardless of the nationality of their parents, with very limited exceptions. Additionally, a person born abroad to at least one Brazilian parent may also be considered a Brazilian citizen from birth, provided certain conditions are met. This is where things become particularly important for those who were born outside of Brazil to Brazilian parents but never formally registered or claimed their citizenship. If a person in this situation reaches adulthood, that is, turns 18 years old, without having exercised or claimed their Brazilian citizenship, they are still entitled to it, but they must fulfill a specific condition. They must have either been registered at a Brazilian consulate abroad before adulthood, or they must come to reside in Brazil and, at any time after establishing residence, formally opt for Brazilian nationality before a federal court. This process of opting for citizenship after reaching the age of majority is a constitutional right, but it requires a conscious and formal act. It does not happen automatically simply because the person has Brazilian heritage. The individual must take deliberate steps to claim what is rightfully theirs, and doing so correctly, with the proper documentation and legal guidance, is crucial to avoid unnecessary delays or complications. Derived citizenship, or cidadania derivada, is the path available to foreign nationals who were not born Brazilian but wish to become Brazilian citizens. This is the naturalization route, and it is the one most relevant to expatriates, immigrants, and international residents who have built their lives in Brazil. Brazilian law establishes several modalities of naturalization, but the most commonly pursued one requires the foreign national to have resided continuously in Brazil for a minimum of 4 years. This 4-year period is not merely a formality. It reflects a genuine commitment to integrating into Brazilian society, and the law takes it seriously. During this period, the applicant must demonstrate that they have been living in Brazil in a continuous and stable manner. However, the law does understand that life is not always perfectly stationary, and short absences from the country are permitted. The maximum time a person can spend outside of Brazil during this 4-year residency period is 1/4 of the total time, which translates to a maximum of 1 year spent abroad across the entire 4-year window. This means that if you are planning to pursue naturalization through this route, you need to be mindful of how often and how long you travel outside of Brazil. Exceeding this limit could jeopardize your application and potentially reset the clock on your residency period. Beyond the time requirement, the applicant must also demonstrate a minimum reasonable knowledge of the Portuguese language. This does not mean you need to be fluent at an academic level, but you must be able to communicate effectively, understand basic interactions, and show that you have made a genuine effort to integrate linguistically into Brazilian society. The language requirement is assessed during the naturalization process and is an important component that applicants should begin preparing for well in advance. One of the most significant and attractive provisions within Brazilian naturalization law is the possibility of reducing the required residency period from 4 years down to just 1 year. This reduced timeline is available in 2 specific situations. The first is when the foreign national is married to or in a stable union with a Brazilian citizen. The second is when the foreign national has a child who holds Brazilian citizenship. In both of these cases, the deep personal and family ties to Brazil are recognized by law as sufficient justification for accelerating the naturalization process. It is important to note, however, that simply being married to a Brazilian or having a Brazilian child does not automatically grant citizenship. The one-year residency requirement still applies, as does the language requirement and the need to demonstrate good conduct and integration into Brazilian life. The reduced period is a benefit, not a bypass. It rewards genuine family connections while still ensuring that the naturalization process maintains its integrity and meaning. For those who qualify under this provision, the path to a Brazilian passport can be significantly shorter, making it one of the most efficient routes available under current Brazilian immigration law. Before any of these naturalization timelines begin to count, there is a foundational step that must be taken: obtaining legal residency in Brazil. The residency visa, or what is commonly referred to as a permanent residency permit, is the gateway through which the naturalization clock starts ticking. You cannot accumulate time toward naturalization while on a tourist visa, a temporary work authorization, or any other short-term status. Legal, formal residency is the prerequisite. As explained in other videos on this channel, the process of obtaining permanent residency in Brazil involves its own set of steps, documentation, and legal requirements depending on your specific situation. Whether you are coming as an investor, a retiree, a skilled professional, a family member of a Brazilian, or under another qualifying category. Understanding and successfully navigating the residency process is therefore the first and most critical milestone on the journey toward Brazilian citizenship. It is not just a bureaucratic hurdle. It is the foundation upon which your entire naturalization timeline is built. Getting it right from the beginning saves time, avoids complications, and puts you on the most efficient path toward that valuable Brazilian passport. We cover the most relevant permanent visa types on other videos of our channel. The Brazilian passport is genuinely one of the most powerful travel documents in Latin America. It grants access to a wide range of countries without the need for a prior visa, including destinations across Europe, South America, and beyond. Beyond travel, Brazilian citizenship means full participation in one of the most dynamic societies in the world. The right to vote, to own property without restrictions, to access public services, and to fully integrate into a country that is home to over 200 million people and one of the largest economies globally. For those who have already fallen in love with Brazil, its culture, its people, its landscapes, obtaining citizenship is the ultimate expression of that commitment. And for those who see Brazil as a strategic base for business, family, or lifestyle, the passport represents a long-term asset of immeasurable value. The journey requires patience, planning, and the right legal support, but the destination is absolutely worth it. Navigating Brazilian immigration and citizenship law is not something you should attempt without qualified legal guidance. The rules are detailed, the documentation requirements are specific, and mistakes can cost you months or even years of progress. That is why having an experienced legal team by your side makes all the difference. Botinha Cabral Advocacia Internacional is a law firm specializing in international immigration law with deep expertise in Brazilian citizenship and residency processes. Whether you are just beginning to explore your options or are already in the middle of the process and need professional support, the team at Botinha Cabral is equipped to guide you every step of the way. You can find more information, resources, and direct contact options at www.lawyerinbrazil.com. Do not leave something as important as your citizenship journey to chance. Reach out to specialists who understand the law, the process, and what it truly takes to make Brazil your permanent home.